Hello, I'm Steve Florio, Executive Director of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I have two topics I'd like to share with you today. First, I wanted to talk about the Governor's State of the State Address, which took place on February 2nd. And I'd also like to talk about some legislative updates. So those are the two topics I'd like to share with you today. On the evening of February 2nd, 2016, Gina Raimondo presented her second State of the State Address. She shared with us a statewide budget as well as her vision for the future of Rhode Island. While watching, you may have noticed in the lower left-hand corner the first deaf person to interpret a Governor's State of the State Address in Rhode Island's history. And we want to congratulate Nancy Vanaco for making that happen. To my understanding, she is the second deaf individual to interpret for any Governor's State of the State Address in the United States. So congratulations, Nancy. And here's a picture. Now I'd like to share with you some legislative updates. The first bill is House Bill 7454. And this is the budget bill that was introduced by Governor Raimondo on February 2nd. That bill includes the recommended budgets for all state departments and agencies. And it's an $8.9 billion budget in total. The good news is that for this fiscal year, the governor has agreed to support the commission's budget of $539,000 with no cuts to funding as well as no additional funding, hence level funding for our agency. For the next fiscal year, 2017, I'd also like to share some good news with you. The governor has agreed to support the addition of a 1.0 FTE, which is a full-time equivalent position, which also comes with benefits. And that will make a total of 4.0 FTEs starting fiscal year 2017. We're extremely excited about this, and we're hoping that this particular bill will pass. The next bill I'd like to share with you is House Bill 7014, as well as Senate Bill 2051. Both bills have the exact same language and intent. However, one was submitted to the House and the other was submitted to the Senate. Both of these bills pertain to the addition of wireless products and equipment to ATEL, the Adaptive Telephone Equipment Loan Program. And the intent is to add wireless products to their inventory list to be available for loan for those individuals who qualify with limited income. Currently, the ATEL program does not have any wireless products available to loan. Their current inventory is only compatible with landline telephones. So as of now, ATEL is unable to loan out wireless products. However, with the passage of this bill, they will be able to add those products to be available to consumers. A hearing took place on this House bill last Wednesday, and it's been voted for further. The next bill is House Bill 7363, and this pertains to mandated coverage by insurance companies for hearing aids. The existing law requires insurance companies to cover $700 per hearing aid per ear for adults and $1,500 per hearing aid per ear for children every 3 years. This bill attempts to increase the coverage to the full amount of the hearing aids. A hearing took place last week on February 3rd, and various groups provided testimony. Insurance companies, the Office of the Health Insurance Commissioner, consumers, audiologists, hearing aid vendors. All perspectives were considered. The next bill is House Bill 7490. This is an interesting bill. One legislator has introduced this bill requiring all restaurants that sell food and beverage through a drive-through window to install equipment or some other technology by which deaf and hard of hearing folks can have access to purchasing food and beverage at those establishments. This bill is currently being introduced. A hearing date has not yet been set, but we will let you know when that takes place. All of the bills that I've shared with you so far have been voted upon and supported by the Board of Commissioners here at our agency. And so our intent is to attend the hearings, share testimony, as well as send letters of support. The next two bills I'd like to share with you. Commissioners have no formal position, however, they do have some concerns. There is no opposition nor support, but again, just concerns as they pertain to accessibility. House Bill 7238 applies to local towns and government. For example, town council meetings, board meetings, or commission meetings that happen on a local level. This bill proposes that those municipalities file any audio or video recordings with the Secretary of State's office, in the same way that we do for meeting minutes, as well as meeting postings and notices. This would require the addition of any audio or video recordings to be filed as well. That's what the bill proposes. The Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing has some concerns about the accessibility issues that could result with this bill's passage, ensuring that those audio recordings and those video recordings are accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community. The question becomes whether the responsibility is placed on the local level, those municipalities, to provide that access, or whether the Secretary of State would be responsible for providing access to those recordings, and whether or not there are resources available in order to make that happen. That's our concern. Should that law pass, we certainly want to monitor what kind of accessibility deaf and hard of hearing folks have as a consequence. The other bill, House Bill 7239, is very similar in intent. However, it applies to state government, which includes state boards, Board of Trustees meetings at Rhode Island School for the Deaf, board meetings at the Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Again, state level. Those are two bills that we express concerns about in terms of accessibility and trying to make sure that those recordings are available to the public. And next is House Bill 7046, and this pertains to the sale of hearing aids through the internet, which requires consumers to have a valid certificate of need, which we assume is from an audiologist, in order to purchase hearing aids through the internet. If a consumer does not have a valid certificate of need and purchases hearing aids online, there will be a consequence of $500 in the form of a fine. The Board of Commissioners, after lengthy discussion, feels as though consumers should not be punished as a result of the purchase of those hearing aids online. So some of the language in the law needs to be researched and looked at. We have no position on this bill at this time. There are two bills left that I wanted to talk about. The Board of Commissioners has already voted upon and agreed to support these two bills, and they've been submitted to the legislature for sponsorship. Currently, these bills are being revised before they are introduced in either the House or the Senate. As soon as they are introduced, numbers will be assigned to them, at which time we'll be happy to share that information with you. The first bill is called the Language Assessment Bill. This would require all children who are deaf or hard of hearing and who have either an individualized education plan or a 504 plan to undertake a language assessment on a yearly basis, so language milestones can be tracked and development of language can be assessed and compared with their hearing peers. The assessment will be conducted on a yearly basis from the ages of 0 to 8 and every 3 years thereafter. The bill would also require the Rhode Island Department of Education to report the results and the status of the language assessment from this particular group of students to be made available to the public. And it would require the establishment of a work group to develop a system, procedures and methods on data collection, and how to work with various school districts collaboratively in this endeavor. This would also require an advisory council to be established to oversee the language assessment program and ensure that students are meeting their milestones. This bill was introduced last year. It passed in the House and was referred to the Senate for committee hearing. A hearing was scheduled, however, the legislative session was pretty much held up. There were 3 or 4 controversial bills that the House and Senate could not agree to last year, and they decided to adjourn legislative session. So any of the bills that were pending for hearing, unfortunately, were placed on hold. So this year, we're trying again to submit this particular legislation, and we're hoping for a much better outcome with improved language of the law. The second bill is open captioning for movies. The state of Hawaii has already passed a law as of last year, and which became effective January 1st, 2016. The commissioners here have decided to pursue a similar objective, and it would require that all first-run theaters that show motion pictures provide 2 open caption showings every week for all first-run movies. What has helped Hawaii pass that law is the fact that they had a sunset provision that was included in the law, meaning that they would pilot this particular endeavor for 2 years and to see how it would go and whether it would work. So we're hoping to push a bill in a very similar fashion. So in summary, we hope that you'll all keep a close eye on our legislative bills, that you'll show your support by sending letters to your various legislators, and you'll come and testify in support of deaf and hard of hearing folks. Please feel free to contact us at any time for any further discussion or more clarification or information about these various bills. Thanks for watching, having a great day, and keep an eye on more reports in the future.